Hi, Allison. I'm finally getting to your question here on Chapter 9. This is your work that you had up. I like your 80% yield. That is perfect. That's your yield ratio. When we put in a comparison of our inputs and our outputs, we get 80% of what we put in comes out. Okay, so that's great. So then I go down here and I look at this, and that all looks perfect. So the only issue is you had in here 720. I'm not sure where that number comes from. I think I reread the whole problem. I didn't see 720 in there anywhere. What we do want is, if this is the grand total of the dollars divided by the number of gallons, well, the gallons are 16,000. So that would be our cost per gallon. I probably wouldn't I wouldn't round so much, although in Excel remembers that you have a 0.125 in there and will use it all anyway. But so that's our cost per gallon. Then as I went down here to part 3, you had a comparison, a reminder here of our inputs. Our actual inputs were 20%. If we yield 80% of that, what is this? I don't think you're using that calculation actually. Let's just back up a step here. Our actual inputs are 200,000. Therefore, if we get 80% of it out, is what we normally yield 80%. So, and that's too many zeros, and that's still too many zeros. So our expected yield would have been 160. So I put that here. That would have been our expected standard yield. For what we put in, what should we have expected to get out? We would have expected to get 80% of it out. So that's 160 here. I don't remember, what did you have? 200,000 there. Okay, but 200,000 is the whole thing that went in, not the actual yield that we would have expected out. So we would have expected 80% of the 200 out, which means we were off by 6,000 at that price up here. And again, I'm going to add a decimal there. Equals that. There's your variance for the yield right there. And let's see, if our actual yield was more than what we would expected, well, we love getting more than we expect, so that would be favorable. So then down here in part 4, it's like you have just random little issues that each for completely different reasons. It wasn't like one issue that fed all the way through. This one, I agree. We have our, our standard mix. 200 in, 30% this, or 15% that, 85% that, sorry. So that's great. Versus our actual, I agree with this. There's the 60. You just missed 0 here. Go back and look in the problem. It's not 14,000, it's 140. So that's all. You missed 0. And so then you subtract. Now, one key, a way for you to catch yourself is these two should net to 0. Because, oh, what's your formula here? Oh, you don't have a formula there. You typed that in. Oh, you must have backed into one of those. Ha ha ha. Plus. And then that adds up to 200, and I'll bring that over. All right. we actually put in 200, and this is actually what we put in. We actually put in 200. This is the display of how it should have been. These two numbers are the same, so our difference here should be 0. It's just more in one place and less in a different place, but they should net to 0. And so that's a good way to catch yourself and see if you did a math error somewhere, is that these two numbers should be off the same number, just different directions. Okay, and then everything else you've got automatic, and so then we're off by 60,000. The only thing is we actually put in more than we thought we would have of the $4 stuff. We put in less than we thought of the $6 stuff. So we put in less of the expensive stuff, more of the cheaper stuff. That's favorable. Okay, this here, think of it this way. More of this stuff would be unfavorable. Less of this stuff would be a savings, so that's favorable. And so then when you compare these two, your favorable number is bigger than your unfavorable number, so your net has to be favorable as well. Hopefully that helps as you're working through them. If you get stuck, let me know.